All right, guys, what's up? Let's check out this clip.
You know what I can't stand? When people tell someone with kids, oh, you chose that person. You chose to have a kid with them. You're right. I did choose to have a kid with them. I also was manipulated. I also, you know what I'm saying, had a baby with a narcissist. And I didn't find that out until years down the line. I also thought we were going to work out because at some points it seemed like we were going to work out. I didn't want to be a single parent. That goes for a lot of people, like men too. Men choose the wrong women, not purposely. Sometimes we fall in love with the mask that they put on, and you know, it at some point, it has to come off. And if you're smart and you have a fucking brain, you leave, kid or not, just whatever. You know what I can't stand?
Here's the thing, right? I'm gonna start off with, yeah, everyone can make mistakes. This is a thing where I don't chastise people for making mistakes. I would criticize, critique, or have an opinion on people not recognizing their mistakes. Yeah, I've said this before. Okay, uh, my baby mom, yeah, I believe she put on a mask. I believe so too. But here's the thing. I'm not gonna call her a narcissist. I'm not gonna badmouth her. I'm not gonna say nothing about her. I chose her. Whatever the result may happen, it's my fault at the end of the day since I chose this path with her. Right? I chose to go about these steps with her. It is my fault. Right? I allowed I because she said manipulate it. Listen to this, right? Be realistic. I saw the red flags. I saw the red flags. I saw the situation for what it is. I ignored it. Right? I purposely ignored it. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm in love, right? I'm sorry. I know I'm trying not to curse because I say hell with it. I'm in love, so I'm gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore how bad the situation looks. I'm gonna ignore it because there are plenty of red flags that you know what maybe in the heat of the moment I didn't think about, but honestly, it's because I chose not to think about it. I chose not to be smart. So at the end of the day, I'm the only one to blame. Calling someone a narcissist, it's like um, it's trying to take away blame, right? It's trying to push the blame. I accept 100% of the blame, right? Because again, like I said, I ignored red flags. So when you ignore how a situation is where you can see that you know what this is not going to turn out good, if you ignore it, you're the only one to blame. You're the only one to blame. And then let's say this: I don't know if she just have one kid, because if you have multiple kids with a person, no one to blame but yourself. No one to blame but yourself, because you choose to ignore all the red flags before, then have one kid. Didn't get better, then you choose to continue to ignore the red flags, then have another kid. It's only you to blame. This is why I said the importance of accountability. I do not chastise people or critique or blame or whatever people for making mistakes. We're all human beings. We're all allowed to make mistakes. It happens. No one's perfect, right? No one is perfect. So to say that I'm not gonna, let's say I don't blame you for making mistakes. I blame you for not recognizing that you made those mistakes, right? Putting any kind of blame on the other person, no, you shouldn't. Because again, it is true. You chose that person. You were hopeful, which is nice, which is great, right? You were hopeful that things could get better or whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, you ignored red flags and you continued the relationship. You continue to either have a kid with him or have multiple kids with him or get married or whatever. You chose these paths. Okay? You weren't smart. You suffer the consequences. Plain and simple. That's the part where, you know what? Accept responsibility. You chose them, right? You chose them. You ignore red flags. That's how it is.
When people tell someone with kids, oh, you chose that person, you chose to have a kid with them.
100% true. So, nothing bad about that, right? Like I said, I chose it. So really, I take responsibility for my poor decision. Plain and simple. I have more respect for a person who will take accountability for their poor actions. I have more respect for a person to take accountability for their poor actions and learn from it. Learn from it. Okay? And not push the blame on anyone else. Who cares if the person was manipulated? Because you allow it.
You're right. I did choose to have a kid with them. I also was manipulated.
You allowed it. This is the thing, right? Manipulation. Right? Unless we're idiots, we allow shit like that. Right? We allow it. It's like, I've seen it. There's very few situations, if any, is that we are so oblivious to the manipulation. It's obvious, but is that we are in love. We love the person. We're in deep with the person, so we allow these manipulation. Okay, that's why you take responsibility. Who cares if they were manipulated, right, or manipulative? Right? We allowed it, right, and then we allow it to a certain degree where you know what, you should have had good discernment, right? Be smarter, be better. You should have you should have been, more. I don't know what I say. Just smarter, right? Maybe not the best word. I guess had better judgment. I don't know, right? So I can say this, right? For me, I was manipulated into having. I had 2 kids with my ex. As crazy as it is, I would say I was manipulated into having the first one and the second one. But here's the thing, right? I ignored it. I knew it, right? This is the thing where, in my opinion, we all know. We all know we're being manipulated. We allow it because our judgment is clouded, right? Because of love, right? The feeling of love, the blinders that love, put on us. So we allow ourselves to be stupid, right? So it was just a situation where I view that, you know what? I don't think it was a good idea to have kids. But because of the situation, it's complicated in a bit, right? Long story and all that stuff. But because of the situation, I was like, okay, it's like 2 people, it takes 2 to tango. So I went with it, and I mean, I regret it because of the outcomes, but at the end of the day, it's like I made those choices, right? So there's only myself to blame.
I also, you know what I'm saying, had a baby with a narcissist.
Baby with a narcissist. This is the thing, right? I was like, women don't even understand what narcissist is. Okay? Because here's the thing, right? In my opinion, if you are a true narcissist, you can see that person. You can see the ego already. But it's like, and here's the thing, right? And this is why I don't really want to badmouth my ex, because again, that doesn't look good on you, right? It doesn't look good on you because this person is, like, let's say, deadbeat, terrible, all this stuff, yet it was fine for you to have kids with them. Fine, you have kids with her. So it's like, it doesn't look good on yourself. So really, I'd rather just not badmouth the person I had kids with.
I didn't find that out until years down the line.
Honestly, I think that's a lie. Years down the line, after kids, is when his mask turned off. Really? That's why I don't really believe this stuff. I mean, could it be true? Maybe. But in my opinion, unless you are a psychopath, you're not smart enough to keep a facade on for years. Like, that's psychotic in my opinion, right? So really, the mask didn't come off. It's just that now you, after so many bad experiences with the person, you're now realizing, you're not realizing who this person actually is, right? And I've been there, right? I was like, you know what? It took me after so many bad experiences with my ex. Is like, you know what? It's like, wow, she's not who I thought she was, or who she claims she is. She's actually kind of the opposite. And I realized that, wow, there were a lot of red flags in the relationship in the beginning and all this stuff that I was idiotic to ignore, but I ignored them, right? No matter what she did, right? No matter what she did, I'm not an idiot. I foolishly ignored them.
I also thought we were gonna work out because at some points it seemed like we were gonna work out. I didn't want to be a single parent. That goes for a lot of people.
Here's the thing. The whole thing, like, did you choose to be a single parent? At the end of the day, when you, and if you didn't choose to marry the person, right? If they weren't good enough to marry, if the situation wasn't good enough to for marriage, you choose that path, right? You chose that path because again, if you didn't marry him before you had kids with him, you obviously chose the path of a single mom. Now, hopefully, right, it will change into now you are a wife with kids, but it didn't. So let's, like, again, this is the part where you take accountability. Yes, you chose to be a single parent because you chose to have kids out of wedlock. Now, it could have changed, right? Over time, if you got married with a person, yes, it could change. But again, let's take accountability. You did choose to, be a single parent. You also chose a bad person, right? You chose a person that wasn't compatible, wasn't a good fit, and you couldn't be with that person for, long term commitment. So you did.
Like men too. Men choose the wrong women, not purposely. Sometimes we
Here's the thing, right? Like, not purposely, yes, but like I said, time shows you everything. Yes, you didn't, like. Let's say this. Of course, people may lie, put a facade, put an image, whatever. I agree. Men, women, that happens to both. But there is a time. This is why you don't have a child with the person after 1, 2, 3 months, right? Even after half a year, even after maybe even a year, right? You don't have a child with a person right away. So this is the thing where, you know, it's all about time, right? So yes, you didn't obviously chose, the person, a fake person or whatever. You didn't chose the lie, the facade, but there's a certain point in time where you realize that it's the facade is broken. I see the lies. I see the red flags. You just choose to ignore them and continue with, you know, the relationship.
fall in love with the mask that they put on, and it at some point, it has to come off. And if you're smart,
And honestly, yes, it does have to come off. There is, like, it takes time. So that's why you vet the person. You take your time. Don't rush, right? And then you make steps to, prevent it, right? Let's say this. What if she got married with a person? Maybe she would see the mask further. So really, in my opinion, it's better you get married and then divorce than get married, have kids, and then divorce. Right? That's my opinion. Where the order is, better than the other. Right? One order is better than the other. That's the thing where at least you see, hopefully, because a lot of times, in my opinion, marriage will break a facade real quick. Right? Time will too. Right? Time will break the facade real. Honestly, I don't think any man or even woman can keep facade on for more than a year. A year is a long time, in my opinion. Year's a long time. I don't think they could keep it more than 6 months, right? With consistent contact, right? You're talking to the person often. You're around the person often, right? You maybe even live with a person, right? with real heavy, consistent contact, they can't keep the facade on for long. But I guess moderate contact, whatever, is like it will facade will break. Uh, Time will do it. A lot of times I hear marriage will do that as well, right? Marriage will show you a lot of times who this person actually is, right? When you're because again, that's also living with them, right? Because marriage will, honestly, it's mixed, right? Some people say you shouldn't live with a partner before, or you should wait until after. But to be honest, is like maybe I'm a little bit different. Where I'd rather live with a person before marriage, so I can get the sense of how they will be when you marry them, right? Because in my opinion, after being with them for a couple months to maybe a year or whatever, and then living with them for a couple months to a year, you will get a good sense of who they are. It is, in my opinion, so close to impossible for a person to keep on that facade when you're living with them. Like, and then when you're living with them over a year and stuff, that facade will break.
And you have a fucking brain, you leave, kid or not, just whatever. You know.
Now, here's the thing, right? Brain or not, for me, it wasn't easy for me to leave. I was pretty much forced, right? Pretty much forced into a corner to leave. So, because she didn't want to see me, didn't want me to see my kids, made it difficult for me to see my kids. So I was like, I was like, I said to her, like, I'll still marry you, right? As much as simpy as that is, or whatever. And we didn't have sex for a long time, right? We didn't. It was a very unloving relationship, but it's like, hell with it. I was thinking about for my kids, right? I was thinking about my kids. I would sacrifice my feelings, and I'm not a cheater, right? I really don't like that stuff. But I would sacrifice myself, my own happiness, in a way, right? Because being around my kids would bring me happiness in a sense, hopefully, right? But I would sacrifice any relationship happiness just so I could give my kids that you know two parent stability. But she didn't want it, so you know. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?